Hey everyone, this is John Bowie. Last year I wrote a book called Navigating the Politics of UX, Strategies and Stories from 40 Years in the Trenches. So as we start the countdown toward the 24 Hours of UX conference coming up May 3rd, thought it'd be useful to look back and see how far we've come from in the UX profession from way back in the 1940s up until the present day. So this is a part of a presentation that I developed about 10 years ago that covered some of the major milestones in the UX timeline. And if we go back to the 1940s, we can see that at that time, we would have just technology-centered design. There'd be no user experience considerations whatsoever. The whole point was just trying to get the technology to work. If we could do that, we considered ourselves successful. And then we could always train the human beings to do whatever they needed to do in order to make the technology work. So here you see a bunch of women who were trained to program ENIAC, which is what you're seeing here, by plugging in a bunch of cables and turning a bunch of knobs. And that was considered the way technology needed to be developed at that point. But as we move forward into the 1970s, we started to have human factors engineers come on board high-tech companies. And they started thinking about what are the ways that we could really simplify the user experience of computers to the point where they could become mass market products that virtually everybody could use.
What's the mail this morning?
This promotional film made in the mid-70s to flaunt Xerox PARC research shows just how revolutionary the Alto was. It was friendly and intuitive.
This is an experimental office system. It's in use now.
It had the first GUI using a mouse to point to information on the screen. It was linked to other PCs by a system called Ethernet, the first computer network. And what you saw on the screen was precisely what you got on your laser printer. It was way ahead of its time.
Thank you, Fred.
It was way ahead of its time. It was so far ahead of its time that nothing even approximating it would be coming out to the market for another decade or more. So back at that time, the standard operating system, the standard experience of using a computer was Microsoft DOS. And as you can see here, DOS was a command line interface. In order to use it, you had to type in a bunch of very cryptic commands, and the commands had a bunch of switches involved that would change the behavior of the command. So you basically had one of two options. You could either memorize all the dozens and dozens of commands in Microsoft DOS, or you could have your manual, which was 300 or 400 pages, sitting on your desk next to you, so you could look up the commands that you might need at the time.